come, but I don't blame them. After a nice lunch and this weather, there are nice places to be except this workshop room. So my name is Christian. I'm the head of startup program at Be Advanced, and I'm very happy that I'm joined by Sebastian, the co-founder and CEO of RealWear, a hardware augmented reality headset startup with a fascinating founder story. And what we will do is kind of like a ping pong. I'm the guy that provides a bit of the, let's say, theory, how it could work in an ideal world. And then Sebastian will say, that's all rubbish, because in real life it works differently. But still, that's the ping pong we will do, and I'm sure you will benefit from both perspectives. And hopefully we'll also have time for some questions. So together, we are kind of a good representation of the Bern capital area, which is consisting of many different stakeholders of the startup ecosystem that want to make entrepreneurs thrive here in the region. And I'm starting with this just short introduction, product market fit, why is it critical? And as you can see behind me, there are lots of statistics and surveys around this, and obviously it is mission critical. There has been this interesting survey of startup founders where founders were asked, hey, your startup didn't work out. I'm sorry about that. Why didn't it work out? And here's good and bad news in one number. It's 42%. 42% of the founders have responded and said, well, we failed because there was just no market need. And that's impressive. And that's good and bad news, because if you are addressing this 42% topic of market need, if you address this well, then you have already eliminated one of the key risks of your startup journey. And if you are not taking it seriously, if you're not taking product market fit seriously, you might run into troubles quite quickly. So that's why it is critical. Another way of phrasing it is, in the words of Andy, a VC and entrepreneur from Silicon Valley, he said, the market always wins. And there are different constellations how this can happen. If you have a great team that meets a lousy market, guess what happens? The market wins. If you have a lousy team that meets a great market, again, the market will win. And the special thing that happens, this special sauce, the great explosion, is when a great team meets a great market. Something special is going to happen in this constellation. And when I say we as Be Advanced, we are supporting entrepreneurs on this journey that hopefully something special can happen. We are based here in Bern, and we are also dedicated mostly to entrepreneurs in Bern, but always feel free to reach out. We want to make the entrepreneurial journey a success. And Be Advanced is quite a compact team, but we've been doing this for quite a while, so thousands of founders have been advised, hundreds of startups have been coached, and so on. Dozens or hundreds of connections have been made over the past few years. So we are in the business really of hopefully advancing US entrepreneurs. And as said, we are part of this Bern capital area. But with that out of the way, let's move straight into this topic of this product market fit strategy. What is it? Why does it matter? How can you achieve it? And I said, for me, more maybe the theoretical input, and then Sebastian with the nitty-gritty details of how it is in real life. I don't need to tell you product market fit is mission critical, because if you are scaling prematurely, this can make or break a startup. And in fact, the founder of LinkedIn, Reid Hoffman, he has said premature scaling is really the #1 cause of death for startups. This is related to product market fit, of course. And therefore, what the F is PMF? That's a question that we should all ask ourselves. And now I'm escalating from simple to a bit more complex and multidimensional. Very simple first, make something people want. That's the very simple message, but you all know it's not as easy. It means, for example, that you have a big enough problem, an urgent enough problem for enough customers, and you deliver a strong solution. But around this, you also need a business model that can sustain this kind of entrepreneurial endeavor, and you need a team that is also skilled and passionate to drive the mission forward. You need capital, so it gets layers and layers and layers. And here, with this overview, you can see there are really tons of multidimensional things that you need to bear in mind. And the term is product market fit, but actually it is, for example, product market sales channels, pricing, fit. So it's very multidimensional. And just to make an example here with this channels and pricing thing, when you look at startups with a spectrum of one startup having a very cheap product or solution, low cost, and on the other side of the spectrum we have a very high cost, high price product. These are situations that you can deal with, and then in the middle there's a very tricky situation. And why is that? If you have a low price product, this means the purchasing process is quite, how do you say, easy, yeah, because you don't need a sales force to actually drive and convince customers. So the lower price of the product is fine, you don't need to finance an entire sales team. If you... Sorry? Yes.
In the middle, Porsche, which is dying.
Exactly. The middle point is very important or very critical, because then you need a sales force to actually sell the product, but you don't have a high enough price and income to actually sustain this sales force. That's very tricky. Just an example of this product market fit is really multidimensional. And what I'm trying to do now is giving you like 4 indications what to look out for when you want to sense if you are approaching product market fit. I go through this very quickly. First of all, I looked for the cringiest GIF you can find for happy customers. That's how they look like. What you want to have is a growing and happy customer base, but that's not enough. Next up, you want to also have in mind or on your radar actually how much profit are you making with each customer. That's an important one as well. The growing revenue is of course great, but if the costs are scaling faster than revenue, you might run into issues. Then the sales dynamic. You want to get to a point where you can sell more with less. So you want to see that there's like a pull from the market. That's a great indication that you're onto something. And then eventually, I mean, if you want to scale and be ready to scale, you need to build an engine. You need to work on your company as an engine that is then also capable of actually grow in a, how do you say, in an effective manner that is able to repeatedly produce high quality, high output. So you also need to work on this engine that allows for also monetization of what you're building. So if you're getting all of this together, you are on a very good track, and obviously it's much harder than just as I'm telling you right now, but just as an introduction. And I said I'm contributing the, let's say, theoretical frame of all of this, and there's this saying from Mike Tyson, I believe it was. He said, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. So I'm the guy who provides the plan, and then Sebastian will tell you guys how you get punched in the face by the market, by customers, and so on. But hopefully it helps nonetheless. So what I would like you to encourage is, metaphorically speaking, try to be Indiana Carlson. And with that I mean be strategic and analytical with the experiments and adventures that you do. And with that I mean, with these adventures or experiments, I mean iterations. Most often it takes much more prototyping and iterations of the solution that you're working on until you reach this state of product market fit, of happy customers, and so on. So it's really key that you are, in a sense, optimizing your startup for, or maximizing iterations. And maximizing iterations means, on the other hand, try to keep your burn rate low. A few years ago, when you looked at all these Silicon Valley startup hypes, you always had this impression of, oh, startups are great, you have all these perks of whirlpools in the office, free food, and all of that stuff. This can be a bit tricky, so I would say it's better to invest your capital into something that maximizes your iterations.
Tokens nowadays.
Yes, tokens, exactly. So with that, I would say, please welcome Sebastian, and let's hear from you the story of RealWear and how you think about this product market fit journey.
Yeah, thank you. So, I mean, I don't have a playbook that I can tell you how to do it. I'm just going to explain first what we do and how we got there. And to be very honest and direct, I don't think we have a super strong product market fit yet, but I just give you like parts of the journey that helped us to get closer to it. What do? So we build AR glasses for the industry. For instance, here you see for remote assistance in case of a machinery breaks down, or in logistics where it gives step-by-step instructions, what to go, where to go, what to pick, and where to put it in the box. For instance, Brock is a customer of us, brock.ch, and it helps basically them that you can get your packages delivered fast and on point. Yeah, I mean, how did we get started? Before Almer that we started, AR was really about showing kind of everything in your kind of field of view and documenting your life with everything imaginable, which,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
May I pose a problem? Because people don't understand. He is talking to manufacturing guys who is doing manufacture for decades. And they are so stubborn for any innovation, I cannot imagine how you sell them AR, I mean.
Yeah.
They, like, think of Mercedes, right? They doing this stuff for like 100 years. And now coming you and say, hey, I will help you with this AR stuff, right? That will make your life easier. Like, no way they will talk to you.
They do.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we have, for instance, Ford actually deployed around 3,000 devices in North America of us for the dealerships. Because, like, just as an example, but we're going a bit away from it. But Ford, they started with the electrification of their cars. And the electric cars, electric vehicles are very different to diagnose than from the traditional combustion cars, right? And they started to deliver electric vehicles, but all their North American like automotive dealerships and mechanics in the dealerships, they are not ready for
So
how to diagnose.
Moment in the right place.
Yeah, and that's basically product market fit. Yeah, yeah, and Volkswagen, for instance, in Europe is similar case. We're currently working now. That's a bit too public, but with BYD and the expansion here. So there are like, it doesn't mean that if it's in an old market that they're not in for change. I think actually it's even often most interesting in an old market because that means there's a lot of inefficiencies there.
But you have to explain them about German inefficiency.
Yeah, I mean.
From the first minute.
Yeah. I mean, German or whatever. It's just generally. I personally think old markets are pretty interesting because they have a lot of inefficiencies. Do you want to improve something in AI, in inference? That's pretty tough, I think, because there's already a lot of attention, money going into. But we can happily also, we have a Q&A session, so we can go deeper in that. But is it more or less?
Oh, yeah. The problem is I don't know how to say it.
It's not that it's easy, right? And I'm also not a sales expert, so I can't give you sales expertise on how to exactly position something into. Yeah. I mean, coming back, that's kind of how AR, the vision of AR looked before we started, basically of like really trying to augment everything, and it's more of a kind of distraction. And it also led to something that was more of a melon on your head than actually something that you want to wear. And yeah, we started with a really, I would say back in the days, that was a very contradictory approach to AR. It was really trying to reduce everything to have the minimum amount of technology on your head. And we started really scrappy, so as Christian said, there's sadly no sauna or whirlpool. It was really just a camping chair and a cardboard as a table. And we iterated very quickly and in a very scrappy way. And that also focused us a lot on immediately trying out. And that's, for instance, also how actually we sold, is we started very early off engaging with customers, even before we had a product to actually sell. So this, what you can see here, is just a helmet, basically, that we glued a smartphone on top of it. and basically said, this helmet can do remote assistance, and but we had to set it up basically to make a call, and then it did a call, and through that we could learn very quickly on what actually matters, what doesn't matter. And we had many cases where we wanted to show something and it was just in front of the customer, it fell apart or started burning. And it was really not fun in the moment. Now looking back, it's fun. But that's also what I think really is helpful, is like moving really fast, so fast that you're scared. If you're not scared, you're not moving fast enough. And going out early, especially with a piece of hardware, is really hard. And you're always ashamed. And I think if you're not ashamed of your product, then you're too slow also. Because then that means you could have learned anything beforehand. And then based on those feedbacks we had, we really just scrapped the first prototypes together. That was on Christmas Eve. We said, on Christmas, we have the first prototype. So on Christmas Eve, we just smashed it together and had the first, that was the first prototype. But then over time, we actually landed to something that was somehow usable and with happy customers, where actually the device doesn't fall apart if they open it. And I think through that, we really, through this, always pushing it very early on to the customer, also trying to charge as early as possible for something that you're really ashamed, was very helpful, because then they actually take it serious. And then they actually test it and have expectations that it works. And you feel like this is never going to work, but sometimes they're surprisingly happy with surprisingly little, but then come up with certain ideas that you would not come up with. And that helped us then to also ink important strategic partnership with TeamViewer. And from there, further on.
So thanks a lot for your first input, Sebastian. He will return. Is it okay if
Sure.
the headset goes through the rounds? Okay, so you can see from the scrappy prototype to now a scalable production grade product, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. And now again, back to my type of contribution is more again the theoretical part. I'll go through it quite quickly with the idea that you can ask more questions, right? And you will get the slides afterwards if you're interested in it. And what I'm now trying to show to you is, even though, of course, in reality will never work as planned, it's still not too bad of an idea to have maybe a plan or a framework how you could approach it. And that's the product market fit canvas. And first of all, I would try to go through this chapter more with principles, in a sense. And the first principle that I would like to introduce is the principle of just reverse engineering. Oftentimes, this is quite a good approach if you have try to envision an end goal and try to find out what are actually the milestones that we need to hit so that we can get closer to the product market fit in that case. So one example, you just mentioned it earlier, you said Christmas, that's when the prototype has to be ready. You created a milestone, and that's what we see here. That's the basis of all that I will now go into a bit more depth. If you go into a bit more detail, we can take this example of, this would be now a hardware product. You ask yourself, how does product market fit actually look like? How does it feel and look like when we achieve this? And then you might look at some typical KPIs. I have them here. For example, you want to meet a certain net promoter score, or you want to have a favorable proportion of customer acquisition costs and customer lifetime value. So you really have to think hard about how does it actually look like when you reach it. And then you can start to apply this for your own context. So you might say, hey, if we want to achieve product market fit, this has to mean that the device must be in scalable production grade status. Or you must say, hey, it costs us 5,000 francs to acquire a new customer, and over the lifetime value, we must reach 4 times the customer acquisition costs. You want maybe to have a net promoter score of a certain grade, and so on. And then you can ask yourself, well, if this is the goal that we want to achieve, what must be true, for example, 6 months earlier or 12 months earlier? So in this example here, we could say, okay, milestone 2 would be the prototype. With Sebastian, it was on Christmas. What year was it?
Actually, the 23.
Okay,
22.
Christmas 23. Milestone, we want to have the prototype. It's perfectly fine if we are not yet profitable and so on. It can still be scrappy, but we need to get to that point, otherwise we will never reach product market fit. So this is this reverse engineering kind of idea. And now comes a very overwhelming canvas thing. It makes more sense when you have a bit more time to go through it all. I'll do it quite quickly. And then again, you can have the slides, have a closer look, and also you can hit me up later on and we can go through it if you want. So you can see here, it's the order is 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. And what is basically happening is quite simple. First of all, you must understand what your vision and goal actually is. If you don't have the company vision ready, and you would be surprised how this can already be a tricky thing with different co-founders who might have different visions of where the company is supposed to go, what the product should be able to do. This is already quite some work. But once you have it, you can translate this into what would it mean in product market fit terms and with certain KPIs. Let's say, again, a net promoter score, the customer lifetime value and customer acquisition cost relationship, and so on. Once you have this, you know what the end goal is, and you can do this entire reverse engineering that I showed here. And after that, you can ask yourself, number 5, where do we stand today, actually? Here it's about identifying the gaps. In theory, this could be, okay, we realize actually that we are nowhere near ready to scale because we don't really understand the customer needs, for example. Or another dimension could be business model. Here in that case, in this example, the company feels like quite ready to scale because apparently they have feedback that the pricing works and so on. As you can see, here are just a couple of these dimensions, and then all the rest of the canvas is just the idea of where do we stand today, what are the gaps that we need to bridge, and how can we try to do this. That's basically it. Looks complicated, and of course, that's theory. In real life, it's much more messy, and you cannot just plan it like this in an Excel sheet, and then it's going to all of a sudden just happen. But still, it gives some orientation how you can think about it. And eventually, hopefully, you get to a point where you have quite a good cockpit in a sense that gives you guidance if you are on track or not. So if you have said for yourself, for example, this net promoter score is really an important KPI to find out if we have product market fit. You must create instruments to measure it. You must track it, let's say, monthly or whatever the right interval is in your context. And then you see the trends. Are you approaching your goal or not? And that's as much of a theory input that I want to give because the experience of Sebastian is, I think, much more valuable for you guys to actually get into the nitty-gritty. So just to sum up very quickly, I would say focus on customer value first. And to achieve this, you must maximize these iteration cycles and be willing or dare to kill bad ideas fast. Don't wait around for too long to make something work that is a bad idea. Then we heard it very in the beginning, premature scaling is dangerous, so actually take your time to first think about problem-solution fit, and then product market fit, and once you feel like, hey, now we have a fire that if we just put fuel on it, we will actually grow quite well, that's a good time to scale. And then maybe last but certainly not least, product market fit is not a thing that you achieve once and then you have it for eternity. As the market moves, as customer needs move, also your PMF will need to be adjusted and go with the times. So you can also lose product market fit if you are not careful. And with that, I want to give back to you again, and eventually I will wrap up with some resources that you can have a look at to make further deep dives after this event.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, now after just the theory, for me, in the end, learning-wise, one of the most important things in a company is the team in the end. Because if you don't have product market fit, but a good team, you will get there. If you, as Christian said, you can also actually lose product market fit. If you have a bad team, you will be distracted by the team or with other things, and you can't work together to increase product market fit. So for me, that's definitely one of the most important things that if you are starting a startup or are in a startup, I think that's one of the most important things. The other thing is company culture, having fun together, doing late night crazy things, doing generally things together, also outside of work, and celebrating small things is also very important, I think. Yeah, that's it from my side.
Very good. Q&A is ready.
When you started the helmet, was your initial vision to sell it to Ford for manufacturing of electric cars, or did you want just to create a VR helmet?
I mean, we wanted to do AR glasses. We saw the need for compact AR glasses that focus specifically on industrial cases, and we focused pretty much from day one on industrial cases. To be honest, we never dreamed of selling something to Ford.
But you didn't. The point is that the theory says that you have to have vision and then work it back. But you never have the vision, the end vision of the product. You have some vague hypothesis.
Yes.
And then you find
Yeah.
your way.
Yeah. I think it's kind of a bit right in between. If that's theory, I'm exactly. And I'm like random struggle. I think the reality is somewhere in between, basically, so that you need to plan, you need to have a strategy and realistically in a startup that's 9 months, I think, or depending on where you stand. Sometimes it's 3 months, sometimes it's 9 months, and you have a plan on how to increase product market fit, right?
I would say, I think this Indiana Carlson metaphor, you want to be strategic about what experiments you're doing. Where do you invest time, resource, capital to do experiments? How can they advance you? And I would say, for example, with RealWear, they excluded B2C from the beginning. It was B2B from the start. And then they might be inquiring, hey, should we go into manufacturing, automotive, energy, and then always come.
Try this, and then something works, right?
Yeah, exactly. You have hypotheses.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to say, because people sitting here, maybe they're listening to this for the first time, they think that you have one big vision and you follow it for a year. You don't have money for a year.
Or sometimes you have money for a year, but generally, I think planning, you live in such an uncertain environment that planning for more than a year is tough.
Yeah.
Okay, one more thing.
There's a question also in the back. So there's more time after the session.
You said that we can get the slides.
Exactly.
I just want to make sure how we do to have something
sure.
for the KPIs.
I will wrap up in a few minutes with a QR code to get in contact with you.
Perfect. And the next question is, do you have any specific examples or advice for SaaS solution, not hardware, for software? Any differences? Watch out.
I guess that non-hardware is easier than hardware because adapting software, testing, validating assumptions with software is much easier than with hardware. So the principles remain the same, that you want to ask yourself, usually it's always about de-risking. You might say the Achilles heel that we have is maybe it's the customer need or customer understanding, maybe it's does the technology work, whatever the Achilles heel is, you have to make this explicit and ask yourself, what are our key assumptions? What must be true that it can work? And this guides you where you need to invest time to do experiments and validate your assumptions. Because a business is a collection of thousands of assumptions, and you must de-risk through experiments, iterations. And I think in SaaS, it's easier because software is easily adaptable compared to hardware, but the mindset is very similar, I would say.
Thank you.
Sure.
I have a question. A lot of the big tech companies like Meta, for example, are pouring hundreds of millions or probably billions into AR and glasses like that. Are you already working on a new product market fit, or you don't see any risk from these kind of applications?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the nice part of being a small company. Like, there's a lot of non-nice parts of being a super small company, but there's some nice parts of being a small company, and one of that is that you can focus on a small market and have a very nice life. For instance, I know 300 million market, it's super nice for us. For Meta, this is nothing and get instantly killed if you propose something like that. It needs, right, it's pretty reasonable if you start a new product that it's like 1% of the revenue. For Meta, I know it's at least a few billions per year that actually it even has some attention. That means you can focus way more on a specific set of customers and make something that is perfect for them. And that's basically what we're doing, is really like focusing and being very close to those. And then I do think it's really hard for others. I mean, of course, then pricing and all that, but it's also very clear that especially Google and Meta are focusing purely on consumer.
Thank you.
Maybe it's a bit silly question, but what would be your advice? We have a product, users love it, they really need it, but then at the end, what decides us is it's a medical product, so it's the reimbursement and all that. And then the big question is if the market is really ready for that. So do you have any goodest advices to to give us on that? Because the product user fit, that we pretty much have.
I would say, first of all, it's great that you have this positive feedback from the customer. That's the key component. And then, since I'm not a medtech expert and this is a very particular field, what I can recommend is downstairs with all the booths, you have this big Hello Startups booth. That's where we, the Bern Capital area, are. And just next to it is the CTEM Startup Club. And CTEM is specifically specialized on medtech startups. So I could imagine that you can have great conversations there specifically for your context. Because these reimbursement codes, I think they're quite sticky, and you have no chance of changing them. I guess it's a lot of lobbying, I could imagine.
Little hacks you can do there,
So I would
That's lovely.
I would recommend that you have an expert discussions, because my knowledge is limited in that field.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yes, sure. And then,
how did you achieve product market fit? So. How did you fund it? Did you finance it on your own, or did you have angels, investors?
I mean,
and where did you get the knowledge from to constantly improve? Was it just iteration on your own?
Yeah, I mean, multiple questions here. First question concerning the funding. Yes, first few months, actually, we didn't even plan to start a company at the beginning. We thought to make a publicly available base that for everyone that wants to build something doesn't need to start from scratch. And we think it's a very important technology, but not as it was done with the HoloLens or the Vision Pro, trying to do everything and nothing really good. We said, hey, it needs to be something that's much more lightweight. And we started actually off, or trying to do it at the university, but they basically kicked us out because you can't make papers from it, and it was too applied. so that's the reason why we started a company. And yes, the first part was basically saved up money that we put in and said, well, this is going to be bankrupt in 3 months. It's fine, but we push it a bit further and we contribute. Then what we actually were very lucky to have and get is InnoSwiss project. That was very helpful in that super early stage. I think their InnoSwiss was also pretty pragmatic on supporting us, even though we were a very newly incorporated company. And that helped us to get basically to a level where we could hire people, basically, and InnoSwiss would basically support that. And that, because it's very complex, so you need a certain size of a team and expertise to make that work. That is that, and then at the same time, from how we had the knowledge, is like we did then basically, we advanced the prototype of that device with this team, and then us as founders, we basically went with the helmet out and did customer interactions and improvements to understand that further and further.
So it was like a parallel
Yeah, it was a
process.
parallel track, basically.
Now you had the question of the first customer.
Thank you. First customer. How did you get your first customer? That guy is sitting on the floor with ugly helmet first, and how did you get larger customers? Was it through professional societies? Was it through outreach, through network?
Yeah, I mean, this actually just follows. It was during that parallel track where we did this helmet thing, and we just iterated until they said, "Cool, can we buy it?" Or like,
Who?
like the regional like companies that do industrial work. For instance,
How did you get them?
we just like
How did you force them to wear your helmet? For example, if I call to a
you
Mercedes
don't-
and say, "Hey, I want to work with
Yeah,
you.
but-
I want to go to your factory, and you wear my helmet," like, no way.
Yeah, but it's your like you don't need to go to Mercedes. Like, why would you go to Mercedes to start with? You start with like very small, very local ones that are often way more pragmatic, and they are actually, I think, surprisingly open, very supportive, and very trustworthy. Much more trustworthy than a Mercedes, because they don't give a fuck what you do. Sorry for the word, but that's the reality. And the local ones that are much smaller, they're much more pragmatic. You can talk with the boss and say, "Hey, do you think that's interesting?" And yes, you will get a lot of no's, but you will also get yeses of saying, "Yeah, that's actually interesting. We anyway struggle with that. Yeah, just try it out." I have some cases where we can just try it, and yeah, that's how you do it.
I mean, literally, how you did it? Like, did you
Yeah,
like
literally.
knocked like 50 doors? Did you call them from your
I
phone?
called them, yeah.
You called, and you.
That's, I mean, this is outreach and sales, basically.
So you took your phone and just called 50 firms who did any kind of manufacturing and said, "Hey, we have helmet. Do you want to try it?"
But basically, or like, "Hey, I'm doing." Actually, at the beginning, I think that's also very helpful as a small company. You can say, "Look, we're not able to sell you stuff, but actually we are doing market research. We would be very helpful." And that's what I really appreciate about Switzerland in particular, or Europe. You can generally trust, and people generally trust you. You generally trust them. It's not like China, where you need to be worried that they just copy you the next day. It's really, you can just call, say, "Hey, is that of interest?" You will get a lot of no's. Yes, that's not super fun, but you will also get yeses.
Cool. I don't know. You're more brave than many entrepreneurs I know.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people actually just, there's no way around going out at some point. And the earlier you do that, the better. But don't start with Mercedes.
Yeah, I tried to
They will
you need
fuck
to
you
have
and
Jean
tear you
Michal
apart.
contact our partnership departments. It took me half a year. I got nowhere. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Second part of the question: how did
And
you
the
get
last
bigger guys? Through like outreach, because it's a part of product market fit, very important, or through investors that gave you money, they brought you these clients. Who brought you forward?
I mean, often it's like, right, I think what is the best part of marketing is like if you have customers that are willing to make a video or a like case study with you, and then you do that, you publish that, and then there's different ways. And yes, this is then a very lengthy process. There's different ways. for instance, industry fairs.
I'm sorry. I'm telling literally what you did. For example, you published video on LinkedIn. They wrote you message.
It's often not that easy. It's a super lengthy process, but you can just, like what I did, for instance, for some, it's just, I basically called all of them in Switzerland. We can do it, or reach everyone on LinkedIn, connect with all of them. And then you get 99 say no, and 1 says yes. Or I had one company that was very big, but well organized. There's one guy that called me back and said, please stop bugging us. We do something, yes, but please just stop calling everyone. It needs very systematic, and I mean, this is classic sales job, right? Enterprise. And I'm not an expert in that. I think the most important thing is that you just do it. And
Well, I disagree with the sales job because it's often in the early stage, you're 2 or 3 co-founders, there's no sales expert.
yeah, so you need, but this is the sales job of of you as the founder, right? And there's at the beginning no one that can do it better than you. But I think many people think it's easier than it is, especially in enterprise. This is a super lengthy process and pretty painful process.
Yeah, that's why you have to lower the burn rate.
Yeah, absolutely.
You always learn something, and it's a process.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we literally called like 1,000 people in Ford, and someone responded.
At Ford it was different. Yeah.
So time for the last question, and then the great thing is Sebastian will be around, and you can catch him. He will actually also be on the main stage in half an hour. I believe it's the main stage to tell more of his founder story. You can catch him as well. Now the last question.
Yeah, I'd like to ask you, what do you think triggered the sweet spot? I mean, with that, the moment when sales became easier for you. Is it when you had a video with a major stakeholder or something else that made the sales really easier?
I think what makes it much easier is what I already mentioned is once you have reference cases of their competitors. That's very helpful. If you have competitors that are your customers and you say, look, they're using it, they're happy, you can also call them, but they're gonna outrun you pretty quickly with that if you don't take it. Then the discussion often changes from, okay, what does it do, to actually, okay, how much is it?
It creates urgency.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent. So as promised, you should get access to the slides. I'll conclude with these resources that I can recommend. There are many out there because product market fit as a concept has been around for 20 plus years. So for example, Y Combinator, great place to look for interviews with founders, with experts about product market fit. Then also, just Google Mark Andreessen product market fit. You find a blog post from 2007, still great. Look for it. One more, Y Combinator, again, another example. Stanford. So there's so much out there. If you Google a bit, you will get good stuff. Then there are also books, and you can get, how many do I have here? 4 pieces. You can get this product market fit book. For example, on the PMF Factory, there's also one especially for deep tech, so you find lots of resources. And then just to wrap up, we are B-Advanced, yada, yada, yada. And if you want to get the slides, you can scan, connect on LinkedIn, and then I can share the slides with you. And if there are more questions, obviously, I'm open for conversation. So I appreciate a lot that there was energy in the room to ask questions. Unfortunately, we only have 45 minutes, but the day is still young. You can continue to do the Q&A with Sebastian, and thanks very much for being with us.
Yeah. Thank you.